Hey, this is Ryan from Web Eminence. We all use AdWords to get clicks to our website. So what do you do when there's a big drop-off in volume in your campaigns? I get this question all the time from clients in the summer months or the holiday season at the end of the year when volume naturally drops off. So in this video, I want to show you 6 different things I look at when trying to determine why a drop in volume may have happened. So one of the first things I do when I get a phone call or email from a client asking about a drop in volume is I check the stats and I look at the graph. And I'm referring to that simple graph that shows up at the top of your AdWords view. So this one right here at the top, and right now I'm looking at clicks and cost over 60 days. So you would need to change the time frame depending on when the drop in volume occurred. So in this case, I'm using 60 days. And it was around this date right here when the client said they noticed a drop in volume. So when I look at this is showing clicks in blue and cost in red. There's a definite drop off, and this is not a super high volume campaign. I mean, this is 5 to 10 clicks per day, but you can see there's definitely an obvious drop off here in the volume of clicks per day. You can also use these drop downs here to look at a few different things. So when I'm looking at possible drop in volume, you might want to look at impressions, see if that dropped off. You could look at the average position, which in this case looks pretty steady, around 2.9, 3.0, actually improved a little bit, but you might see the average position go way up, which means you're not showing as high. That could be a reason for a drop in volume. You could also look at interaction rate or click-through rate. So this appears pretty steady here, but the scale is pretty low on this graph. So that would be something to look at if your click-through rate went way down. This graph here obviously isn't showing me much for interaction rate. So that first view of clicks and costs is enough for me to see, like, yeah, I think there was a definite drop in volume, and it looks like there might be like a systematic reason for it to happen. So one of the next things I would do is check the change history, and that is a view in AdWords that shows you the changes that have taken place, or the changes you've made or others have made in your account. So you just click on change history down here. So what I would do with the change history report is try to find changes around April 12th to maybe April 17th that may have affected the volume. But when I look at this change history report, there were some changes on March 29th, and then there wasn't any change until April 18th when budget amounts were increased. So you wouldn't expect that to cause a drop in volume. So nothing in the change history looks like it could have caused this drop in volume. So that makes me think that there's something else that did it. So if you're looking in your change history and you see like you paused 2 campaigns or you deleted 100 keywords, that would be a pretty good indicator, or there'd be a pretty high chance that one of those changes is what led to that drop in volume. So then you'd want to either undo those changes or look at those changes closely and decide if that's something you want to undo, or maybe change or revert those changes. Sometimes the competitive landscape within your industry changes, or within some of your campaigns. Maybe there's new advertisers, or maybe some of your competitors are just bidding higher and getting more volume. One way to determine that is to look at the auction insights report. And I won't spend a ton of time on this because I did a whole another video on this that I will link to here. So the way I would use the auction insights report in this case is to look at 2 different snapshots in time. So let's say a drop in volume happened 30 days ago. I would first set this time frame to the last 30 days and then look at some of the competitors and their impression share. So here's one competitor at about 11%. Here's another one around 10%. So you could take a screenshot of that or just save it or remember it, and then change the time frame to 30 days before that. So rather than starting April 12th, maybe I'll put it around March 11th to April 11th, click apply. So it does look a little different. If I drag that screenshot back over, you can see over the last 30 days, which is right here, I'm getting 20% impression share, whereas before I was getting around 60. This web.com impression share is up, and there's a few more competitors that weren't showing before, and they all have higher impression share. So there's a definite difference here. There could be other factors, and you want to understand the Auction Insights report to understand what could affect these changes, but check out my other video for that. But this might help to tell the story as to why there could be a drop in volume. Another great option for trying to determine why a drop in volume may have occurred is to compare time periods. And this is a great feature that a lot of people probably don't use. I sometimes forget it's there as well. The way to use this is to go into the time options, click that drop down, set whatever time period you want. So if we're comparing month to month, you might click 30 days up until today, and then click this little compare toggle to turn it on, and then you can click previous period. So what it's going to do is compare this blue 30-day period to the previous 30-day period, which is marked in yellow here. So you can change these time frames and make custom time frames, but when you're done, click apply. And when that's done loading, what you're going to see is the two time frames overlaid on each other on the graph. So this dotted line is the comparison period, which is the previous period, and then the solid line is the previous 30 days. And then in the stats for all campaigns, which I'm viewing right now, it's going to show you the typical stats you're accustomed to seeing, but you'll notice these little arrows in each of these columns, and if I click that, it'll expand that column and show me a comparison of the two periods with here's the first period here, the second 30-day period, and then it shows the change and the change percentage. So you can glance through here and see, okay, there was a 39% drop in clicks overall, and you can see the individual campaigns in this case. So here's one that had 80% drop in volume, so I might inspect that campaign a little bit closer. And you can do this for each column, so you can look at impressions and look at the drops by percentage. I can look at click-through rate and notice that problem campaign had a 70% drop in click-through rate. Average position, there's a pretty big change there too in that campaign. So you can see how viewing those comparison periods can give you a quick look at where the drop may be occurring and kind of narrow down on specific campaigns. You can also view these types of stats for ad groups and keywords to see where a drop in volume occurred, even at the keyword level. Another step I would probably take is looking for impression share changes. So I'll stay on this view because I can actually go to the impression share column and use the compare feature to see if there was a change in overall impression share. So impression share is how much your ad is showing compared to how much it can show. So you can see the impression share is pretty high in these campaigns, around 80 to 90%. So that doesn't appear to be a huge issue where there was a drop in impressions. So the ad is still showing about the same amount. Actually, it increased on one of these campaigns. So it's more an issue of how often it's getting clicked, more so than how often the ad is actually showing. So you can actually check out my video. I did another video on impression share to learn a little bit more about that. And you can also add impression share to this graph up at the top to see a visual view of impression share. And if you look at this red line graph showing impression share, you can see it was pretty steady and maybe even increased a little bit like I mentioned. So that was definitely not an issue in this account. And the last thing I would look for that could have caused a drop in volume is quality score. So quality score is pretty important in determining your ad rank, which obviously determines your volume and how many clicks you're getting. So to view quality score, you would have to go to the keywords tab, and you got to make sure you add the quality score columns. So you click on this columns icon here, modify columns, then click on the quality score drop down, and you can add quality score, and then also add quality score historical, which is going to show you the last known quality score. So then you could compare the two. You can first look in the quality score column to see if there's any issues with some of your higher volume keywords. So I have this sorted by impressions. So the higher volume keywords are at the top, and you can see they're 7 out of 10, which is pretty average. 8 out of 10 would be good. And you can see they have not changed. So if you were to see a higher quality score historically and then going to a lower quality score, that is very likely a cause for a drop in volume. So then you'd want to figure out why your quality score is low by looking under the status column. And under the status column, it's going to show you the 3 factors in quality score: expected click-through rate, ad relevance, and landing page experience. And you can try to remedy the one that is low. In the case of this account, you can see they're all okay at 7, 6, 8 out of 10, and they haven't changed. So I don't think quality score was the reason for the drop off in volume in this account. You also want to consider the seasonality of your business. There might be a summer or winter seasonal drop in your volume for seasonal reasons. There could be a trend in your industry going down. You can check Google Trends for that. Sometimes I'll look at that site to determine if there's a drop in traffic during certain times. In the case of this account, it really didn't find any smoking gun or clear reason why this volume dropped, but I did narrow down some of the ones that you saw and kind of eliminated those as possibilities. And on a lower volume campaign like this, it's possible that it's just kind of a coincidence that there was just less people searching for this specific service during a week or two, and that happens. You can already see the volume is kind of up a little bit. We did increase some bids, so if all else fails, you can always increase bids to get more traffic. And there was a little bit more competition. You did see that one campaign had a drop in traffic, so I did evaluate that one pretty close. So I hope that helps you troubleshoot and determine why there may be a drop in volume in your account. If there are other reasons or things you check for in your own account when you have a drop in volume, please comment below and share those. I definitely didn't share all of them, but tried to share the top 6 things that I look for when searching for a reason for the drop in volume. If you like this video or found it helpful, please like it and then check out some of the other videos I mentioned, and we'll see you on the next one.